Chapter 32. Servants are as invisible as postmen. Who would suspect a chambermaid with an armful of sheets of ulterior intentions? Or, for that matter, a uniformed bond-servant carrying a tray of cool drinks and tempting snacks? "I didn't order refreshments," said Yallet at the private door to the retiring room. "Well, never mind, thank you." Avoiding his attempt to take the tray, Onya made to bring it through the door. Yallet frowned and stood in her path. "I wish to see the President," she said. "The President is resting, now please go away." He took the tray from her. A thin, tired voice came from inside. "Who's that? Did I hear... Is that really you, Onya?" "Yes, President." "My Onya. Come in, come in." Yallet tightened his meagre lips and stood to one side. When the President saw her, he smiled with the unaffected joy of a child greeting a long-lost parent. "You've come back to me," he said. On the roof of the corporation security HQ, the Brigadier spoke in a low voice to his second-in-command, Unger. Jeremy, who was standing behind him, was wondering to himself whether he dared to suggest that he should remain on the roof as a kind of lookout or something, while the others went off to do the actual fighting. He had a mental picture of 20 or 30 of the sort of thugs who'd guarded them when they first got caught near the TARDIS, all firing guns at him, and him sort of going pop as they all hit him at once. The Brigadier interrupted himself. "Shh! What's that noise?" Jeremy became aware that they were all looking at him. "Only my teeth chattering," he said meekly. "Try to keep them under control, there's a good chap," said the Brigadier. "Now listen, everybody," he went on. "There's a slight change of plan. It seems that Tragan's people have concentrated themselves in the communications area, which is here." He pointed to the map in his hand. "Now, Ungar's Recce suggests that if we approach from here, we can take cover here and here, and with any luck give them the surprise of their lives." Jeremy was concentrating on his teeth. No matter how hard he clamped them together, as soon as he stopped trying, they were off again. "Are you listening, Jeremy?" "What? Yes, jolly good idea." "Wait for my signal. Don't go rushing out, getting yourself killed." "Who, me?" said Jeremy. "Anybody. We don't want any dead heroes, right? Off we go then." Jeremy opened his mouth and closed it again. It was too late now to talk about lookouts and stuff. In any case, he didn't want to be left all by himself. He took a deep breath and scuttled after them. As Ungar had found, there was a strange dearth of personnel even for the late shift. One unfortunate they encountered was silenced with a blast from the Brigadier's stun gun and propped in a corner, staring at nothing to recover his strength in a few hours. Apart from him, nobody. Nevertheless, Jeremy was glad that the plan entailed their taking cover. As they crept through the darkness of the open-planned communications floor towards the lighted area in the corner, he kept close behind the Brigadier, on the principle that generals and people like that didn't usually get killed. You only had to look at Napoleon and Wellington and that chappie with the funny voice and a beret in the desert with all those guns going off. He'd seen it on the telly. Montmorency or something. They'd arrived behind a bank of control desks which were not in use at present, and were peeping over the top. It was clear why the rest of the building was so deserted. A whole bunch of security officers, getting on for 50, Jeremy reckoned, were scattered round the duty area, nearly all wearing ER headsets. "The games," the Brigadier breathed in Jeremy's ear. He looked at his watch, seemed to do a countdown under his breath, and stood up. "Freeze!" he shouted. "Hands above your heads!" At his shout, the encircling assault troops stood up, stun guns at the ready, and Jeremy crouched down as small as he could manage and put his hands over his ears. The noise was considerable. Most of the enemy chose to disregard the brigadier's instruction and went for their guns. The raucous whine of the stun guns on both sides of the conflict was mingled with the swish and bang of the portable missile launchers carried by the more senior of the security forces. With such utter surprise, and with the enemy being blinded at first by their ER helmets, and for that matter by their absorption in the games, there was no possibility of a real defence. In a matter of minutes, the brigadier was calling for a ceasefire. The noise ceased. In the incredible hush that followed, Jeremy peered over the desk again. A large number of the security men were lying paralysed, but conscious, by the stun guns. The rest had their hands in the air. Nobody in the attacking force seemed to have been hit outright. 2 had an arm dangling uselessly from a near miss, and Unger was staring in surprise at his left hand, which had a finger missing. "Well done, everybody," said the brigadier. He looked down at Jeremy. "You can come out now," he added. Jeremy rose slowly to his feet. "As it's all over," he said tentatively, "does it matter if I let my teeth chatter a bit?" What were they all laughing at, he thought bitterly. All very well for them. They were used to all this stun gunnery stuff. He was only a journalist, wasn't he? He thrust down rising memories of war correspondence on the telly, flak jackets and all. "Quiet!" called the brigadier, and the relieved hubbub died away. Jeremy saw him pull out of his pocket one of the little mini intercom thingies they'd all got. Except him, of course. It was quacking away like Billy-O. Hang on a moment, he thought. That sounds like Sarah. It was too, a mini Sarah in a great old state. "Brigadier," she was saying, "can you hear me? Over." "Yes, Sarah, I can hear you. What is it? Over." "Listen, I haven't got much time. They've got us... Tragan's got us in the stadium, the games place, in the security bit, and they're going to..." Her voice abruptly ceased. The brigadier lifted the thing to his mouth, but stopped himself from speaking. He switched it off. "Ask her," said Jeremy urgently. "Find out what's happened." "That could place her in the gravest danger," snapped the brigadier. "Unger, take us to the flycar area, at the double." As the door opened, she managed to slip the little button back into her pocket just in time. Tragan, returning with a portable ER headset, looked at her suspiciously as if he might have heard her voice. He was evidently satisfied, however. He just told her to sit down. It was only after the doctor had left that she had realized that when he put his hand on her shoulder, he had slipped something into her side pocket with the other hand, the one hidden from Tragan and Freeth. And only when Tragan, after a look round the sparsely furnished room, followed Freeth and the doctor out, had she been able to find out what it was. The sound of his feet outside the door had warned her that he was coming back. Whether the brigadier had understood her hurried message, she had no idea. "Can't I at least go somewhere to watch the fight?" "And escape? And spoil all the chairman's plans? No, no, my dear. You must stay here in case we need you, or part of you at least." "What about ER? Can't I watch it on ER?" "Unfortunately, there is just the one set," he said, holding it up, "and I need it myself. However, if you sit down like a good girl, I'll tell you what's going on." Reluctantly, she sat down and watched him while he donned the headpiece and adjusted the controls. "Nothing happening at the moment," he said. "It would be the interval before the announcement of the big fight, and of course the new attraction." The lower part of his face, below the helmet, was rippling gently. It was so pale that it was almost white, with just a tint of lilac, like a naff new paint for the ceiling, Sarah said to herself. Silence, and in the silence came the pain of thought. Could she have stopped the doctor going? Was it her fault that he was going to be killed? But if he had refused, what would have happened to her, to both of them? The thoughts went round and round in an endless loop, like a Mobius strip, the doctor would have said, and that thought caused a pang which started them all over again. "Ah," said Tragan at last. "Something's happening. Yes, here comes Jen Heger into the presidential box." "The president's box?" "Yes, of course," he said, as if it were self-evident. "They always introduce the finalists from the president's box, and they can walk straight onto the catwalk from there." Jen Heger looks like an angry ape. I expect he's annoyed at being made to fight a clown. So much the better. "Ah, here comes the chairman and the doctor." Does he look all right?" No answer, bar a faint smacking of the lips. Please tell me." So Tragan told her exactly how he looked, and while she listened, Sarah was praying that the Brigadier would get there in time. Freeth had gone to a great deal of trouble deciding what the doctor should wear. "I sometimes think I missed my vocation," he said. "I should have been very happy in show business. You can just imagine me dancing through the fairyland of theatre now, can't you? Or perhaps I should say prancing, to be at one with the aristocrats of the stage, the very princes of dramatic art, and put on pantomime, for example. The acme of histrionic achievement. Let's face it, Earth has a great deal to offer dull old Paracon." While he rattled on, he was selecting the doctor's fighting gear. Item: one long striped frock, suitable for a comic bondservant in an old-fashioned farce. Item: a pair of skinny boots, twice the length of the doctor's own feet. Item: one frizzy ginger wig. The doctor silently dressed himself. "And of course, we mustn't forget your weapon." He produced a traditional cook's rolling pin, with which the doctor was to oppose Jen Heger's hefty broadsword. "Now, I know what you're going to say, Doctor. That's not fair." "That's what you're going to say, and I shall come back with the lightning riposte. No, it isn't, is it?" The crowd was certainly taken with the doctor's get-up. He was greeted with hoots of glee, which were doubled and redoubled after Freeth's introduction to the fight. "My friends," his rich voice boomed through the amplifier, "what can I say? We all know that Jen Heger didn't have a dad." The mountainous Jen Heger glowered as the audience roared their appreciation. "But even he must have had a mum. And here she is, to give us all a glimpse of the happy home life of the Jen Hegers." Uproar. The gate swung open, and the gargantuan fighter led the doctor along the perilously narrow catwalk to the fighting circle. As wide as the square of a boxing ring, the circle had no ropes or safety rails. If a combatant were to be thrown out of the fighting area, it would not be to land in the comfortable lap of a correspondent from the sports pages of a friendly tabloid, but to be greeted with open arms and mouth by the Toad, which was great indeed, who could now be seen below leaping up with the eagerness of a dog being offered a marrow bone fresh from the butcher's. Jen Heger turned and struck an arrogant pose, moving with the lightness and grace of a star dancer. Dressed only in a breech clout, his tanned 7-foot frame was solidly clad in iron-hard muscle. He lifted his stubby sword 6 inches wide at the hilt, as heavy as a bludgeon, but as sharp as a new carving knife, and pointed it at the doctor. "Clown," he rumbled, "you are dead." Raising the sword ready for the first slashing blow, he advanced across the ring. The doctor held up his hand. "Wait," he said. "Why do you stop me?" "Do we have to fight?" "Yes." "Why?" Jen Heger looked puzzled, as if this was a question he had never considered before. "If I do not," he said slowly, "they will kill me." He frowned. "And you make a clown of my mother," he added. "Not I, my friend," said the doctor. "Very well, so be it. You will not attack me before I am ready?" Jenhegger grunted. "We kill each other, but we do not cheat." "Thank you," said the doctor, and pulled off the ginger wig, which he dropped with the rolling pin into the pit of the toad. The dame frock followed, to be torn to pieces by the infuriated amphibian below. Jenhegger watched in puzzlement as the doctor dragged off the elastic-sided boots. "What are you doing?" "I have no wish to mock your mother. If I am to face death, it'll be as myself. Besides, this ridiculous footwear would trip me up." The actions of the doctor, who was by now clad only in his underpants, were highly unpopular with the spectators. One, in particular, the chairman of the Paracon Corporation, was shouting at the top of his voice, over the crescendo of catcalls and jeering, for the doctor to stop what he was doing and fight. "Your boot has hit the toad in the eye," said Jenhegger, apparently still bewildered by the uncommon turn of events. "You're making it very angry." "I think I'm making Chairman Freeth even angrier," said the doctor. And indeed, he could be seen jumping up and down, insofar as his hulk would allow, and screaming with rage. "What are you waiting for, Jenhegger? Kill him!" The perplexed face cleared. The sword was lifted once more. "Are you ready now?" The pale, wiry body of the doctor straightened. He raised his hands and settled into a fighting position. "Ready," he said.